What's 35 years old but still one of the greatest action movies ever made?
Get away from her, you bitch!
It's the 1986 sequel to the movie Alien. It's Aliens. Coming up next. As you probably know, Alien stars Sigourney Weaver as Ripley, the lone survivor of an alien infiltration of a ship that happened to explore a planet in the movie Alien. The movie actually begins with a dream in which Ripley feels like she's going to have the chestburster alien pop out of her stomach. This begins a movie about the nightmares, the terrors, the PTSD of victims of the aliens. Turns out Ripley has floated through space for 57 years, and a corporation responsible for terraforming the planet on which the alien ship in the movie Alien crashed wants her to help advise a Marine Corps going back to that planet, rescuing the colonists, and trying to figure out what's going on with the colony. Joining Ripley in the group of Marines is an android named Bishop, whom Ripley doesn't like very much, and a corporate representative named Burke, played by Paul Reiser. Now, the Marines are full of hubris. They're overconfident. They believe that they're just going to go down to the planet, kick ass, and then come back heroes. And of course, they don't know what they're dealing with Ripley warning them the entire time. And then once the Marines run into the aliens, well, it's a disaster.
Hey, maybe you haven't been keeping up on current events, but we just got our asses kicked, pal.
One more thing, Ripley, who has drifted through space for 57 years, has actually lost her daughter. Her daughter died in her 60s. Ripley never really knew her daughter then. So when she goes to the colony, the lone survivor left in the colony is a little girl. And Ripley sort of adopts this little girl as her adoptive mother of a sort. That's the basic bare bones of this plot. This is one of the few movies, I really like when I was 15 years old, and 25 years later, I actually still really like this movie. I recently watched it for the 5th or 6th time, and you know what? This movie still really holds up, even after 35 years. The special effects have aged, but the thrills, the threats, the problems, the whole scenario in this movie is really, really good.
Thank you. That will be all.
God damn it, that's not all. Because if one of those things gets down here, then that will be all. Then all this bullshit that you think is so important, you can just kiss all of that goodbye.
Not only is this one of the best military science fiction movies ever, it's one of the best sequels ever. Hard to make a sequel to Alien, but they did it here. The movie sort of apes Alien, and it's a slow build to the middle. It takes about an hour and 15 minutes until the real action kicks in when the aliens and the Marines meet up and fight. Once it hits that point, though, the movie just takes off, and it's action-packed throughout the rest of the movie. Great action sequences, very well constructed, great sets, great shot making, great editing. I was also surprised on rewatching this to kind of see all the science fiction concepts in this movie. I hadn't expected or remembered so many being in this movie. Not only are there aliens and androids and deep space hibernation, there's terraforming, there's the whole colony which is fueled by huge fusion reactors. There's all the weapons in this movie. And then the movie has a sort of a stainless steel industrial aesthetic look. Now, what's this movie ultimately about? I like to try to break things up into their aspects. 1, this movie has a biological aspect to it. 2, it most certainly has a political aspect to it. 3, it has a social aspect to it, especially with Ripley being an adoptive mother, but then later in the movie, spoiler alert, the Queen Mother alien facing off against Ripley. So I'm going to try to go through those 3 aspects very quickly for you to help you understand that this movie is more complex than you might otherwise think. First, the biological aspect. One of my favorite ideas here, the aliens are sort of representing multiple things at once. Actually, compared to being a virus or a bacteria infesting the colony, at one point Ripley even says that the colonists are exposed.
Because just one of those things managed to wipe out my entire crew in less than 24 hours. And if the colonists have found that ship, then there's no telling how many of them have been exposed.
Being exposed to these aliens is a weird word. Usually you're exposed to viruses, to disease. Not really exposed to rats if you have an infestation problem, or ants or spiders or something like that. But second, the aliens are compared to parasites, and very clearly with a chestburster alien, with the aliens attaching themselves and then having a alien creature, spawn inside a person, the person being a host, then they're parasitical. Third, these aliens are hive creatures. They're compared to ants late in the movie, especially with the mother queen, laying all the eggs. So you got virus and bacteria, you got parasites, you've got hive insects. But the aliens, as we learn at the very end of the movie, it's a great moment where Ripley is in the midst of the hive. We find out that the aliens probably are sentient and highly intelligent. And so now you've got these humans who think they can kick ass and take names, they can wipe out anything, change entire planets, facing off against predatory creatures higher on the food chain than them. This movie definitely says humans are not the dominant species in the world or the universe. Second, the political aspect. I misremember this movie as an anti-colonialism movie. I thought this was against, the colony placed by humans on the planet. In one way it is, because this is a Vietnam War movie. It's got the hubristic Marines thinking they're going to walk in, destroy everything, and make things right.
Check it out. I am the ultimate badass.
That's right.
State of the badass art.
And they're faced off against an enemy with a bunch of lookalikes. Yeah, they're kind of communistic, these aliens. With this movie being 1986, you got Platoon coming out. You've got a number of Vietnam War era movies in the last 10, 15 years. It's definitely in that tradition. I have to mention 2 novels you should definitely read. One, this movie is responding to Robert Heinlein's militaristic Starship Troopers. And the follow-up to that is a great, great novel. Please read it. You would love it even if you hate reading. Joe Haldeman's The Forever War. Aliens reminds me a lot of Haldeman's great novel. Both of those novels are about bug infestations, humans fighting aliens, humans trying to colonize and fight for colonies against bug-like aliens. But this movie is not anti-colonialism. It's actually pitting one version of colonialism versus another. That's right, the aliens are colonialists too. They've crashed in a spaceship, they set up camp, they breed, they multiply, they take over the area of the colony occupied by the humans. You get 2 kinds of colonies then. One, this for-profit corporation run by humans. 2, the hive mind, intelligent-like society of the aliens. Since the aliens are vicious, they'll kill anything, they'll risk individuals for the good of the society. I think this movie says, the tenacious version of colonialism these aliens have is a better version, at least in terms of survival. Although I find this movie has politically a defeatist narrative. I'm a little bothered by that. I actually like to watch more positive movies than this. I actually like more positive movies. And that the American Empire at this time is coming up with a defeatist narrative like this, I think speaks volumes of the mentality of people in the last 25, 30 years about the possibility of American colonialism, especially after Vietnam. Third aspect I want to talk about briefly is the social aspect. Definitely this movie pits the sort of quasi-feminist Ripley adopting a human child in this movie against the ultimate mother breeder, the queen alien who lays presumably hundreds and hundreds of alien eggs. Both are overprotective mothers by the end. And you might say, well, this movie is just an action movie, just enjoy it. It creates a world in of itself that's very interesting, but you know what, leave it alone because it's entertainment. But this idea of Ripley being this sort of single mother with one child, and suffering, of course, the hardship of losing her own child, never knowing her personally, up against sort of this ultimate breeder of lots and lots of babies. Question is this movie saying anything about mothers? I think this movie showcases some of the tensions in modern society, American society, maybe other places in the world at the time, about what kind of mothers we should have, what kind of women we want in society. This movie may not be actually arguing anything, but it's displaying some of those tensions by pitting one mother against another at the end of this movie. Again, I think the scene near the end where Ripley goes to save Newt, the little girl who's inside the hive of the aliens, and she encounters the alien mother, and it's a moment of tension, and there's nothing sort of happening except Ripley sort of discovering what's going on with the aliens, respect between Ripley and the mother maybe. There's a threat of violence and tension, but there's also a moment where they look at each other, the alien mother hisses, Ripley backs off, and then you know what? She decides, I'm going to destroy this hive. It's an interesting ethical, moral, biological choice on Ripley's part. It inflames the Queen Mother and makes the Queen Mother come after Ripley, and it enables this movie to have a false ending where you think Ripley and Bishop and the little girl get away, but of course the Queen Mother is on the spaceship and fights Ripley in the very end. Ponder that Ripley would go after the aliens like she does. It's quite interesting. And the main reason is, of course, because, the aliens attack openly and viciously humans. It's natural for us humans to want to get rid of predators, things that infest our houses, parasites. But we're also part of nature, and we need to respect nature even though it's very harmful to us, or can be at least. This whole ecological aspect to this movie, with the technology in this movie, the science fictional stuff, with the political material, actually makes this movie more complex than you would otherwise think in just looking at it, where it just looks like, okay, it's Marines shooting aliens, aliens attacking Marines. No matter what, if you don't want to do that kind of analysis, I think the look of this movie creates its own world in which I get lost in. Unlike most movies, I believe this world exists, and that's one reason I really think this movie is great. I think it's so long as we're concerned about fighting wars that are wrong, that are harmful to us, fighting them overseas, whether it be Vietnam War or the Iraq War, whether we're worried about biological and ecological concerns, viruses, pandemics, infestations, parasites, I think Aliens is going to play pretty well, and I think it's going to thrill and torment viewers simultaneously for quite a while. If you watch this movie, what do you think about it? I especially am interested in people who are born after, say, 1990. How does this movie look to you? Does it look old? To my eyes, it looks dated, but not old. But maybe you think so. What do you think of this movie? It is number 73 on the imdb.com site. Please subscribe to this channel for more great movie content. Thank you. Have a great day.